Nice to see everybody. So welcome. First of all, a heartily welcome to Johann, especially. We have been working together, Johann, since 2017, actually. I
Yes.
looked that up, and the relationship started at Aerosud, and then it was quite convoluted ways during COVID and things like that. Always aligned to Aerosud, but Johann was in Portugal a while, and now he's back fully at Aerosud in South Africa. And my anecdote with Johann is always that when I got to know him, he had his office next to the server room in the cellar of the building. I could to call it also the dungeons of the building. So that was where how critically important he was on that side, but also how much he was in the hierarchy. And over the years, he has actually moved up in the ranks and up in the building, and now he's sitting on the top floor together with the executives. So Johann, we've seen you grow over the time, and it's awesome to have seen that. Johann is also a regular attendee to our mastermind group since 2017, so we've been working together for that while, and it was really amazing to able to see him grow over that time. In that time, I think we have been there at the beginning for a day at Aerosud, and we've once met after COVID for a coffee. That is all that Johann and I have met each other, but I would call Johann a friend. And as we said a while ago, we said we can easily do a braai together. So we still owe that braai to each other. We haven't made it
Yes.
yet, but Johann, maybe at our 10-year anniversary, something like that.
I'm in the valley over December, so we might do something. At least
Okay.
a coffee.
Yes. Yes. Let me know. But yeah. First of all, also very, very big hi to the people from the PMI. These webinars we do together with the Project Management Institute Germany chapter. We are also a sponsor of them. So very welcome to all of you. And I think that's enough from me. Without further ado, let me hand over to Johann.
Yes. Hi, welcome. Yeah, I'm the group head of business and information systems at the moment. We are an aeronautical engineering company called Aerosud, and we are based in Pretoria, Gauteng. We're basically tier one supplier for both Boeing and Airbus, and we are a design partner on the A400M on the Airbus side as well. So we do design, manufacturing, etc., in the aerospace environment, which is a very complex and highly regulated environment. So a couple of years ago, around about 2016, we adopted TOC principles within our manufacturing environment. And along with that, we adopted critical chain project management in our PMO office. So along with that, it became significantly more difficult or more critical to track the progress of all our projects throughout the business. So meeting up with Mark and Matthias, we obviously started discussing on how can we help the business to get a better view on their day-to-day operations, and we started exploring on the Kanban Businessmap application and the principles of Kanban in terms of project management. So immediately we adopted that on the operational side, but there was a challenge because we obviously designed our projects in a Microsoft project environment on a waterfall methodology. And then from there, we needed to get it back into the business map environment. And as you can imagine, industrializing an aircraft is not a five activity project plan. It is massive project plans. And we very quickly realized that creating a complex project within Businessmap using manual methods was going to be a big challenge. So from there on, we obviously started automating, which I will be demonstrating today on how we go from doing a work breakdown structure, applying CCPM principles on top of that, how we bring it into the business map environment, and how do we monitor then where our bottlenecks are in the performance, as well as the on time, on cost, quality KPIs that's linked to that. And obviously, how do we sort of structure our resources and the resource available to determine if we have more projects? Because deadlines is a thing in our life. I mean, we have to make commitments to our customers. So the true Kanban methodology is a bit counter to the complex projects that we run, even though we still use Kanban principles once it gets to the execution of these activities. So we sort of merge the two and combine them with good results. Okay, so I'm not going to dive into the MS projects. I think everybody is familiar what MS project looks like. I'll just dive straight into where we actually extract the tasks. So obviously MS projects has got the ability to extract your activities into a CSV or Excel file. So we basically just went and selected all the fields that we would like to import into our system and do a straight extract from our MS project tool. And it basically shows us, what is the title, what are the resources, the work packages, and then the activities within the work packages, predecessors, successors, the scheduled start and finish dates, duration, which we estimate it comes down to days, but it's estimated in hours. And then what are the resources? So here we've used resources, which is basically the services. So we've got tooling services, nesting services, planning, manufacturing, engineering, etc. Instead of actually looking at people as resources, that's where the Kanban adoption comes in, where we focus on the service rather than the person itself. And then obviously which level it lies in. Is it the top level project? Or is it the work package or the activity? So those are and then lastly, the customers. And those are the fields that we extract from the MS projects. And then we just did some clever macros and stuff to shuffle around all the information. So basically 2 buttons that exist on this thing, we import it from the project. And once we're done, we export it to a Kanban import file. So basically within seconds, it goes and it builds a file that is understandable or understood by Businessmap. So we basically use the import capability of Businessmap. And then this will tell you basically where it needs to go on which board, which lane, which column, and what are the links associated, the parent, the predecessors, the children, the successors, etc. So as part of this, when we do the work breakdown structure within the MS projects, we use a tool on top of MS projects we call ProChain to determine what is the critical chain. And it basically goes and colors the cards. So if it's critical part of the critical chain, the card's color is red. And if it's not part of the critical chain, the card's color is green. So basically, this is the standard file. All of this literally happens in seconds. So you import the project file and you can immediately go and export the business file within a couple of seconds. And then that we use to inject into the industrialization board, which is still using the legacy timeline. So we are in the progress to upgrade this to the planning view, but yeah, it still imports it onto the timeline. So a couple of other things we've helped the design office with is to define a template. So they use this template to build their projects. So this is the service, which basically determines which boards it goes to. Then there's typical task templates, which is specific activities with different fields on the cards. And then obviously the resource name, which is again just a template to determine the flow, the workflow it goes into. So, and then this one basically shows us our capacity per service. So we got a design service, we got a number of users, and we go and allocate the percentage of that person's full-time equivalent dedicated to that specific service. And that gives us a bottom percentage of capacity available per service. And then obviously we just extract that on a weekly view. So for each week within the year, we have for each one of the services certain times available. So this is just the baseline that will define how we look at the KPIs later on. Okay, so let me jump into the industrialization. So obviously we just use the normal import tool, which is the import card where we go and select that Excel file that's automatically created. And we click the button and it goes and builds the project in the backlog. So when the project manager is ready, he goes and releases that project into the timeline, and it becomes a project on our board. Let's just put this up. So basically, the project distribution will look like this. We have the top level project, which is the portfolio on the portfolio level. Then we have the work breakdown per per resource. So the work packages assigned to engineering, work packages assigned to production, quality, tool management, etc. And then obviously each one of these have got the associated activities with design, manufacturing, engineering, planning, and nesting. So we get a top level view and a second level view of all the work breakdown structures per resource. And then obviously as they start working on it, it will start completing percentages at the top. The top card then automatically shows the cumulative size. So this is hours. So it's a total of 11,000 hours that will be required to finish this industrialization project. And we've got a planned start date and a planned end date. And then we assign which customer this is to so that we can do recoveries later on. Also information coming straight out of the information, and then out of Businessmap, and then we've got the key account manager and the project manager assigned to this. So we use custom IDs based on the project's input so that we can identify all the cards within the system. We just filter on each project code to filter throughout the system. Okay, so now that the project is injected into the system, the work actually starts on the team boards. So let's take, for example, engineering. Just go and reduce a little bit. So basically we have a portfolio workflow where all the projects that is currently in progress is allocated, either a pipeline or in progress, and each one of them's got their own activities. And then each one of these have got a naming convention behind them. So this is the work package for manufacturing, engineering. That's a work package for design. And each one of those have their own workflows. So each workflow, we've set out exactly what is the process step, including waiting queues, so that we can identify where stuff is getting stuck or what is waiting too long in the system in order to get it through the system, so we can identify what is impeding flow of specific activities. And then obviously the tickets that is in the pipeline will show that there is predecessors, successors, and it will only release once a previous card has been completed. We sort the board basically on the dates. So whatever is next lies at the top, and the operators just pull. So there's no name allocation. There's a design server, and the next available resource will pull for design, will pull a ticket from the top and start the activity. And so forth. So that goes for design, config, NC. Each one of them's got their own process flow defined, which is specific to their environment. Okay, so as work continues through the system, the top level project manager can continuously check the project at a top level, and he can see how that project performs in terms of the colors. So there's the top level project, and you can see each one of the work packages, and you can see where the work packages are in the progress or even the activities within the project. So it gives them a quite nice update. At this point in time, we still have a challenge to actually integrate the system back into the fever charts, but the project manager basically uses this view to get an update on the progress of his tickets, and then he updates the MS project file, and he generates the fever chart, which can be viewed at the executive review meeting. Okay, so out of this, we get a lot of metrics as well, and I'm almost done. So we use that Excel file where we define the resources and the availability per service. This is basically the red line that comes directly out. It reads it directly out of Microsoft SharePoint. So it creates this red line, and it shows where people are on leave or if they're sick or anything. And then the information, the columns that you see here, this comes directly from Businessmaps. So it looks at the actual work, and you can see what the current week is, what is work that should have been done that's still in the system, and what is work that's allocated in the future. So you can obviously see a dip because this is the closure of the company over the December holidays, and we can see where there's work packages assigned. So once work starts on it, basically the yellow or gold line is the estimated work based on its size that's allocated to a specific week. The blue is whatever's still lying in the pipeline. Orange is obviously what people are busy with, and the green is the actual takt time. So we actually make use of people logging their time against activities so that we can test that over time to see if we are estimating the activities correctly on the projects. So jumping to that view that I just showed, so this is just a default view, and obviously we can click on the card and we can draw through the detail for each work week and see what work has been allocated to which resources or specific services. And then we just show you what amount of this work is related to CCPM projects, what amount of it is related to non-project related activities, or what amount of it's other projects that's not deemed as a CCPM project, an industrialization project. So as the work completes, we can start viewing a history. So this is a history over a 15-week period. And we can see where we've estimated versus the actual time versus the available resources. So for design example here, you can see there's a lot of overestimation and the actual takt time is a lot less. So in future, you can see the deficit between the two should be getting less because they're doing closer estimations. So it's just a view. And then we have a history view to see where most of the time is spent of our resources. 25% on CCPM projects, 38 on non-projects, and 35 on non-CCPM related projects. So that's the first view that we get out of this. Then we want to start looking at continuous improvement and obviously our performance. So also directly out of Businessmap and still using the available resources that we calculated in the Excel file, which is the gray column here. We look at how many activities that we have the week, which is the blue column. So there were 16. It took us 120 hours, man hours, to complete the 16 activities. And then we set ourselves a capacity target of 80%. We use the Pareto principle, 80-20%, so that we can have enough headroom if we have additional things happening in the system. So we set a target and we see how we perform on that target. And obviously we can see for last year, or for the beginning of this year, that the resources were running very hard. They were actually working overtime to get the activities out of the system. So a lot more work than what we had normal full-time equivalent capacity. So this was overtime. The second graph here is we look at what is quality. So obviously in the process, if something is not right, it gets tagged with a specific tag. And then we can look at, okay, this is maybe not a good example. Let's see if there's one maybe in the design. Yes, here's a good example. So it will show you how many was completed, how many was done right the first time, and how many was not done, had to be reworked. And then again, we have a target in terms of quality. We set ourselves a 95% quality target, and then we can see how we perform against that quality target. The last graph here is let me just move that screen over, is on-time performance. And here, basically, we monitor the due dates on the activities itself. So each activity has a planned start date and a planned end date. And as it completes, so we only started putting on the reason codes on why they are late from February earlier this year. So basically, this graph would explain to you that this is the amount of tickets we did. So you can do an example of the 30 plus 1 plus 19 plus whatever that red one is. That should give you a total of the March quantity of 54 in total. And it shows out of that, 30 was on time. The yellow one, it was late, but due to external factors. In other words, we were waiting on a customer. And orange is specifically, it hasn't got a root cause assigned to it. And red is, it's an internal root cause why we were late. So you see from April, we now don't have orange in here because everything is now compulsory. If it moves to a done column and the date is overdue, then it is compulsory to put in a root cause on why it was late so that we can track how many things are late due to external factors versus how many things are late due to internal factors. And obviously the internal factors become a continuous improvement activity. Then we have two trend lines. The dark blue trend line is to say what is our actual performance. Again, we've got a 95% on-time target here. And then the light blue is what would it have looked like if the external factor did not delay us. So we basically get two metrics out of that. And then obviously we can draw into the detail. So we've got the columns set up in the bottom here, and we can see all the weight columns in this one, only one weight column, but this one's got more. So here we got a couple of weight columns, and we can immediately see the number of man hours lost of work lying in this specific weight column. So this is a focus area where we then need to go and see what do we need to do to reduce the amount of waiting time to get work flowing through the system a lot quicker. And then that's basically, in a nutshell, how we roll a CCPM plan and then go back into a KPI and see where we need to improve in order to get better results. Thanks, Matthias. It's a mouthful.
Okay. That was a mouthful. That was indeed a mouthful, but it is awesome. And I think it's now time for people to start. As we said, we'll normally do about half an hour of chatting, and then we do half an hour of questions, and we do have some questions, or we don't have any questions as yet. So people can think about that. What I'll do is I'll do a quick commercial break in between for the people to just start thinking and to start typing, because you've now heard a lot from Johann, and I mean, I know it is a lot. It is something that is Johann's system. I mean, as we said, we are working together since 2017, so it is something that we've been doing for quite a while, and Johann has obviously, as an engineering company and so on, they've taken this to the next level. So I'm not expecting too many to do that, but this is what I promised you in the description of this, is to say this is one of the most regulated industries, and this is how you can take it to the nth degree, with engineering as well, and with putting Power BI on top of Businessmap and things like that. So for those of you who want to take a step back, the first thing is, if you want to see a bit more what this Businessmap is all about, we are able to give you a 30-day Businessmap trial. So I know there's a few people here, and I've seen that are quite well versed to Businessmap, and some of you are new. If you're new, if you're saying, look here, this is totally blowing me away, but I want to see how this thing works, you can use this. And the specialty of this augmented trial is also you are getting some time of us. You're getting at least 2 times 1 hour strategy or implementation support session to have a bit of a hand holding on that one. And then throughout the trial also email support, and we are also doing that in English and German. If you're a serious evaluator, you can even get longer time. So it's not the 30 days is the starting, especially now over Christmas. It's sometimes we say, okay, but it's easy to do the January as well. Zuid.com/businessmap. If you're saying, I don't want to try this myself, but I want to see how this works in an industrial environment, we're also doing simulations. It's 4-hour simulation. We're doing about, at the moment, 1 every 2 weeks to 1 a month. There is one still left this year. That's on the 10th of December. This one is in English. We're alternating in German and English. And at this moment, actually, now there's only 5 spots left, because about 10 minutes before this session, there was another person that registered. So there's 5 spots left at this moment for the simulation. So you can go to zuid.com/simulation. It's free of charge for 2 attendees per organization. And there is only 10 people that we are allowing, so there's 5 spots left at this moment. For this one, that's the last one in the year. I have already booked. There's the next one is in January, is a German one again. So if you don't want the English one, you can look at that as well. And then you are now in these webinars. We are doing webinars, about 10 a year. I put a question mark in there because I haven't set up the ones for January. We are normally doing a break in December, and we're doing a break over the summer season. We've done now, again, a few after summer, but I'm also inviting everybody always to say, if you've got somebody you want to hear, if you've got a specific topic you want to hear about, let me know, because I haven't pre-planned the year yet, and I normally only plan 1 or 2 ahead. So feel free to let me know what you want to see, what you want to hear, and we are looking at that. And that's it. Now it's time for Q&A. Let's see if there's anybody that has been brave enough to do a question as yet. And Mark, feel free to also chip in and also come on screen if you have got something that is specifically. I know you are the CCPM person with us, so if you've got something that you specifically want to ask Johann, that is fine. But Johann, taking a step back, how did you? Oh no, there is actually one question. Let's first get that one, and this is actually one that is in line with what I wanted to ask. Axel is asking, how long did it take to create this customized environment with Businessmap, Power BI, Excel, other systems?
Yes, okay. I mean, it depends on how good you are with Excel. So basically, to set up the Kanban extract was very quickly. The total setup of the Excel file and to get the macros working took me roughly about a week just to get everything sorted and working out. So that was just to get it into the system. To do the KPIs in the back end, it took some time, some meetings, but it's not long meetings, roughly about a 2-hour, 3-hour meeting to understand what the boards and the processes should look like. Then we set up the processes. And then when we set up the business map to do all the data modeling, not the business map, the Power BI, the data modeling and setting up the visuals, that took me about 3 days as well. So this is not a year project. If it's got some skill in Power BI and Excel, and they understand how Businessmap work, in other words, the columns and the fields and how to import and export things, then it's a fairly easy task if you understand the scope of the requirement. So for me, it wasn't months. It literally we did. I think Matthias and Mark often saw that, 1 week we got 2-week sessions every second week. Every second week I've got something new set up on the board or different department added with new functionality or features. So it's fairly quickly if you understand the tools you are using.
I think, Johann, that's the big thing. You start quite easy. And you start within weeks. We're not talking months. We're not talking, and the base import, base export, base stuff is there. But then it is actually more time to get people to use it and to get people stable to use it than the technology of it.
Exactly. I mean, and it's worth mentioning, I mean, all the effort that was put in prior to getting the thing implemented, we're now really at the point where the project manager, he puts in the most time to do the planning, and then the resources just pull the cards. So everything is automated. Nobody has to go and update a BI file or update an Excel file or anything like that. They just need to follow the process, and this thing automatically updates. So you don't have to spend a week at the end of the month to go and do all your KPIs and get all the data. All of that's already in there. So, and that's the nice thing of putting in the effort, which is actually very quick to do.
Yeah, but Johann, you're making it sound easy. It's always a few hours, but if you add it up over the last 8-9 years that you're at it, probably it's a month or two's work.
Correct.
Or even more, but it is small chunks. It's always, okay, this is not working, or let's automate this bit, or let's automate
changes.
this bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the nice thing.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because if people only see what you've done after eight years, for you it's easy because you've only always changed a small thing. But if somebody has never seen this and now sees this, it looks like magic.
Correct. And I think it's important that you mentioned that, because I think that's also the approach I took. And we start off with the basics. I mean, we didn't want to go all the bells and whistles before we released anything. We started off with the basics because we immediately saw the benefit of visualizing work. And then we started building on small incremental changes and small incremental integrations and changes to that. So over time, obviously, it's a lot, but the system itself allows for small incremental changes as you have a problem to solve.
Yeah, I think this is what Mark is also here saying in this next question. He says, Johann, each time I see what you've done and achieved, I'm amazed again. For others, I believe this might be even more of a shock. And I can almost see the one question in the room: how easy was it to get started? And you've touched on it a bit. And more importantly, how easy was it to get others to come along on this journey? What tips do you have for others to get them to come along?
Yeah, I think it's always best, and this is something I've learned the hard way, is to start with the areas where you do have influence. So if you are in a position and you have a direct team underneath you, is start to hone your skills and your thinking on the team, because that's the immediate impact you can have, and then prove some benefits. Because I mean, this started off, as you can remember, in the IT environment, and we started off with just visualizing and putting the normal principles and practice in place, and we literally doubled the output of the same resource in a very short time. And I'm talking within a week, we already saw the benefits of that. And then obviously looking at the success that we gained in the business, the other departments started saying, hang on, what are you doing and what is this? And then the next bunch that jumped on was the engineering, because they obviously have a lot of balls in the air, and doing that on an MS project or an Excel was a challenge for them. So immediately for them, it was easier to adopt the system and start visualizing and having a policy where they say, well, we only pull the stuff that's in the top of the queue. I work on it until it's done before I start with the next thing. And immediately the workforce started feeling easier and they started adopting. So it is a process, but you have to start small with a team, almost go and do a proof of concept and demonstrate, be verbal about it and visible about it to show the successes to the business. And then only the rest of the business will start adopting, will start becoming curious on, okay, how can this work for me? Because I also want to see something happening.
I think, we often say to people, start with a lighthouse project, start with something. These days, I mean, you've started in the IT and so on, but IT was very core to everything. Often other teams have started in a team and it's very difficult. You have to really start in an overarching process. For you, we very quickly went into industrialization, which is an overarching process and which is where really the speed was gained for the company.
Yes.
The next question is, which tools are you using for demand and capacity management, exchanging data with your customer and across the supply chain?
Yeah, so we actually developed an in-house application, manufacturing execution, which we do all our demand and capacity on. So that links directly into our ERP system, and we basically have our program offers looking into this to see what the demand is from the customer manager, managing the orders. So once they've configured the system on our demand and capacity side, they can then basically launch. Once it's gone through the industrialization process and we're in the production phase, then basically the system configures from a program office to load the capacity into our launching area. So it's an in-house application that we've developed, and in use of a ERP system called Syspro. But I mean, basically it does what SAP does, just at a lower level.
Okay. Good. The next question is coming. Which Power BI visuals did you find most useful for tracking flow and bottlenecks across the departments?
So that last
which visuals? And he said if the question was Power BI visuals, but I would actually want to take a step back and say, which visuals did you find most useful for tracking flow and bottlenecks across departments? Because some of it is Power BI and some of it is actually, a lot of it for flow is actually within Businessmap. Yeah. So maybe if you can show a bit there.
Something. Yeah.
You just need to share again, because I think I stole your sharing again.
It might be small on my screen, but let me quickly share my screen. So I'm going to use what's that? Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, I just need to switch it on again. There we go. Now it's on the on.
Let me just
on tab.
Show this a little bit bigger. Let's make it last 180 days. So obviously there's a plethora of tools built into the system already that you don't have to go out to Power BI in order to do that. Sorry, that one is now just trying to refresh. So the one that I used quite often, which is linked to our organizational level agreements and service level agreements directly internal, we can also use it for external contractors if they do work, is the flow metrics that's directly built into Businessmap. So here we basically configured it to have a week view. We look at the amount of work request that comes in. We look at the average work in progress for all our resources. And then we look at the amount of work that goes out again for that week. And we have a trend line to see what is the average time in system, or the cycle time from where the ticket came in or the request to the point where it's actually closed in the done environment. And we monitor that on the right hand graph we see, or axis. We look at the days. So this is 2.5 days. We've got an OLA of less than 3 days response to service the business for non-due date performance requests. And then obviously this is the quantity in the weeks. And then we have one for due date performance. In other words, where the ticket is deemed to have a direct impact on delivery product out the door. And there we need to respond within less than a day. So in other words, within a couple of hours, because it's business critical. So this is a very good tool for me to see what the flow looks like and to see if there's an improvement. So incidentally, I got back in South Africa in week 37 and immediately there was an increase. I don't know, it's kicking some butt, but that's it. So this is a nice tool for me to use. In terms of where there are bottlenecks, we also make a use of the whip age, where we look at how long on an 85th percentile, how normally does tickets, how long does it take per progress or process step. And we can see where the ticket comes in. Then it either goes to a contractor or it goes to a level 1 support, level 2. But we very importantly configured waiting queues into the system. So obviously if level 1 can't do the work, they escalate it to level 3 and we can monitor how long things sit in each area. So again, we've got an access to show what is the amount of days in the system. So you can see there's not system things that sits longer than, I think the longest here is 11 days that sits in the system, which is currently in the IT environment. But it shows you normally how long things sit within a specific process step. So that helps a lot as well with knowing where your bottlenecks is, to see where things get stuck. So we can see things haven't moved here in a while, but we can also see if there's a very low color or set in this area, then we can see, for instance, that there's a blockage in the system.
Yeah, then just maybe too quickly on the whip age to explain to people, maybe people haven't seen this one yet. It's on the left-hand side, you see the axis is the days, so how long is something in the system, and on the columns are the actual columns of the Kanban system. So you can see where is it sitting at the moment and how old is it. So in the contractors, or this very old one there, at the top right is sitting level 3 in progress. So it's somewhere where level 3 has to look at it. That's 11 days. So it's the age is there, and it was most of that time in level 3. So it's really Correct. A problem that is being looked at, where some of the others are still sitting at contractors or they're sitting in request.
Yes. Sorry, I reduced that. Okay. So that's, I mean, and as I said, there's many different views. Once you go into analytics, you can obviously look at all the graphs and the analytics that's in there, but I'll leave that over to Mark and Matthias to demonstrate. On the Power BI, obviously, I just used a normal bar chart, which pulls the information right out of the system. And again, when I built the data, the table that shows the data for each one of these columns, it's very important. I've also visualized the waiting queues here so that I can see where is the things getting stuck in waiting, where there's no actual activity on it. Obviously, if we can reduce the 633 days lying waiting for a review, then obviously we can get things quicker through the system. So this one's also very, very useful in terms of monitoring where things getting stuck.
I hope, Kishan, that gives you a bit of an idea. And I mean, yeah, I think it is a combination of what you're using. You're using, I mean, the system already, Businessmap already has got, especially for flow, loads of built-in metrics. And I mean, we've only scratched the surface now. But what Johann has also shown, specifically for an engineering or for a specified one, you might need something that's extra, or you might want to inject, like he's doing, those lines of how much you have got capacity in a week and things like that, which is not sitting in that system, but which is sitting somewhere else, and that you can bring back in Power BI. And there's a native connection between Businessmap and Power BI. So you bring that, and you also bring that back into Businessmap. You show it in Businessmap again if you want to. So it is on the dashboard, so people in Businessmap can again see the Power BI graphs. So that's quite a nice one.
Yeah, I didn't demonstrate the graph actually sits within the same dashboard as the Businessmap KPIs.
Yeah, that is. There is also that next question here. Is my next basic question is, how difficult was it to pull the data from multiple departments into one Power BI model, and how did you ensure data accuracy?
Yeah, no, obviously you need to go and verify that. So basically, I don't have the file here. I could open it. So I had to do some data modeling. So I basically went and pulled from all the board separate files, but they basically set up the same. Then in the data model, I go and create relationships between things purely based on dates and years and ticket IDs, specifically the ticket IDs. So that is not difficult. Again, if you know Power BI, it's very easy to do the modeling. But it's not rocket science. So if you got the API, you basically go set up a report directly within Businessmap. You go and see what you want to see on the report. And once you click on save it, it gives you already the Power BI code. So maybe I can just do a dummy on that, because that's actually the easiest way to demonstrate. So let me just show my screen here.
Yeah, you just need to share again, because I think you've
yeah. So basically, directly in Businessmap, you got a search option. So let me load one of the engineering BIs that I've created. So the design BI for open. So basically, you just do a search and you go and configure the results, saying which columns you want to see. From here, you can extract it to an Excel, but once you save it, so if I save it, it already creates the Power BI query. So if you're using Excel, you just go and paste that into your Power Query screen. Else you just go into Power BI and you say get blank data, and you go and paste it. It already uses the API that you, as a logged on user, uses. So that's then the API that it pulls directly via the API directly into Power BI. And then you just need to go in Power BI. If you've got more than one column, so I basically pull a couple of things out of the system where let's use engineering. So I pull open the open tickets only, the report, and then I pull a report for only close. So obviously it's got set for certain last 30 days where the section is archive. I only want to see stuff that's in the archive environment, etc. And then I create the columns I want to see and save it, and then I use that output from that to put into Power BI, and it queries all of that directly. And then just if there's multiple tables or data sets, I use something like the task ID to create a relationship between them. Some of it maybe this is the log time for specific task IDs versus the actual card IDs. And then that way you link it within the Power BI. Fairly easy.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, Kishan, I don't know if that was so basic. If you know Power BI, it's very basic because it actually gives everything to you. But as Johann said, I mean, if all the data is the same on all boards, you just pull one query and you've got one table, which normally isn't the case. So you pull different ones, and then in Power BI, you can put it together, your data model, as Johann said. Data quality is huge. If you don't have quality data, if people don't fill in their things, it's difficult. The nice thing is with Businessmap again, a lot of the data is in the background. As a card gets pulled, the times get written. As something gets updated, it gets written into the history, and those things you pull out all automatically. So a lot of it is automated. A lot the people don't have to do. But obviously, if people work on one thing and pull another thing, then you don't get that. So there is quite a bit of education needed.
So obviously, maybe just worth mentioning, because we do create the report, but we also include the actual operators on the board, like for instance, all the engineers. They have a view to the reports as well, so that they can tell us, listen, something's not looking right here, or, I actually work more hours than this is what. So in the beginning, it's almost like you have to do supervised reporting, where you do for the first month, you do a check and you get the verification from the users. And then after a while, we start trusting the data a lot more. And we do sometimes find little bugs and niggles into it. Like, for instance, if you're using, when a card was created, if it's a very old card, but it's still in the system, and for instance, the system only queries the first 1,000 records, it might throw that card off, even if it's still in WIP, but it's not one of the last 1,000 cards. So those are little things that we picked up in the system, and hence the reason why I only pull all the opens, all the close, because then I get less than 1,000 and I can actually combine them to have more accurate data.
Okay, yes, I think that is stuff you learn, but I mean, like with any data, like with anything that you've got in, also in what's the name, in AI these days and so on, you have to query your data, and you have to query what you get out. It needs to make sense, and you need to use your common sense for it. Good thing is that obviously you're an engineering company, you already use theory of constraints, you already had a lot of processes. We just brought those processes into the tools and so on, but it built out. There is one more question that was, let me just quickly see, there was just a thank you first. Yeah, basic knowledge of Power BI. Can this combined Kanban, CCPM, Power BI approach be applied to other industries like energy or EPC? Yeah, I would say probably everything where you can pull a data. I think that's something we'll also be. So if you follow us, Kishon, we are working a lot in CCPM and are talking a lot about it at the moment, especially Mark. And you'll hear a lot of it in the next future. So maybe contact us. Maybe we can also sit down and we can have a look what your exact questions are. I'll invite you gladly to have a session with Mark and me to look at that. But one thing, I mean, we are using it in different industries as well for that. And Johann, you've seen a lot.
Yes.
So I would definitely say so. One more question was there. I would appreciate if you could zoom in a bit more on resource management. You showed us quickly how you use Excel and Power BI to do this within Businessmap. Do you have some tips on how you reconcile the flow thinking approach used in Businessmap with the more traditional approach focused on actual hours spent by people? For example, how do you size your cards? How do you handle different skills and requirements within department, etc.?
Cool. So obviously every business is different. I can only explain to you how we approached it. So what I'll do is I'll just share because I did touch on it very quickly, but let's just zoom in a little bit on the resource management side. So basically what we did is we started off with our planned resource allocation. So we just took literally the people we have in that specific department, and we know what skill sets they have, and we go and allocate a percentage of their time per day to that skill set, which gives us a bottom line in terms of what is the total resource time available for design over a month period. And so that gives us, we've got a 305% resource availability for design, and so forth for admin, NC programming, NC, and then liaison with customers. So that we go then back and go and calculate, just looking at the dates, and we also include our public holidays here, how much hours we have available for NC design adjust, NC adjust, etc. And that's just the mathematical that we do here. So this Power BI that we have, the actual Power BI itself, also in the Power Query, can query the Excel file directly from SharePoint without having to set up external connectors. So we just created a connection to pull that table in, which creates basically all our capacity lines, our availability capacity lines. We just untick that here, and this gray column here. So it looks, the model itself looks at that specific Excel file, and then we've got another model where we pull in the actual activity. So basically here we don't look at people, but we look at the service, which is the baseline. And then if we want to drill into people, we have a recoveries file. Let me just see if I can get the Power BI open here, which gives you the detail for just that one. Let's see if that's going to log in. Okay, not. Okay. But anyway, so we basically can look at people when we do our recoveries, and then we look at what is the actual time logged per ticket, per month, or per year, per resource. Okay, there we go. This one will take me there. Okay, so, and the engineering workstations, engineering recoveries. So this one is again basically our engineering and our manufacturing engineering side, where we have people. And because we got our system set up where we have a customer linked to every activity, we can see where this person, the percentage of his monthly time, and we can obviously set it here, 2025, we want to see what he did in September. And it will shuffle it to go and see which one of my resources spend what time of their available capacity on which project. And that way we go and recover against those projects as well. Or if we need to invoice the customer, we calculate what rate this person works out and how much time they spend for that customer. So it's quite slicing, and then when it's very easy if you basically want to go and set this up. So we'll just go and edit so you get an idea for. This is a single query that we have here. Which is coming directly out of the time log. And this one is just querying via the API. What is the real name, the user ID of the person? Again, all of it out of Businessmap. But you get this full, I can go back in time and see which resources worked on which projects and how much. So we can slice for different areas.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, Johann, you've given us quite a bit of an overview. I actually just want to change tack a small thing, and that is we've been talking about we meet every two weeks and things like that, and I've been talking about the masterminds and so on. I think the last few years you've mainly engaged with us over masterminds. At the beginning it was a bit more with boot camps and things like that. I don't think we need to go into that one, but I'd love to hear from you. What is this mastermind? How do you describe it, and what does it do for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been doing it for quite a while, and when I don't do it, I miss it, because it gives me the opportunity to not just listen to what other people, ideas people have, because other people's got similar problems, and sometimes you need to understand how did they approach it, because every environment is different, and we don't always think that out of the box as we would like to. So for me, the mastermind is always to go and get some insights, and obviously take my challenges, go and articulate it into the group and say, listen, guys, I'm at a bit of a loss here, or give me some ideas. And it's always been a catalyst. I mean, I'll sit there and I'll listen and I'll start smiling, and then I got an idea. Next week when I come back, the problem will be solved, and I had some ideas. And this is for me always what the mastermind meant to me. I go there so that it can inspire me, and so that it can be a catalyst to solving my problems, because we sit with people that's like-minded, and obviously people that got different experiences in life. So combining all of that just helped me to get things solved and resolved a lot quicker, with a lot more success as well.
And I think the one thing of Mastermind, maybe I didn't give enough of a background. That is what we do there since I think 2016 we started with it, and you started with us 2017. It is every 2 weeks for 2 hours we get together as a group. It's sort of a user group, but it's also Mark and myself in there, who are always bringing ideas into it as well. But it is a user group of people that are like-minded and are also similar. So it's, for example, a group of people who work the system, or there's also a group that is more on team level and things like that. And the users exchange about their experiences and then take it further. And it's always, for me, it's always quite interesting in how people come for years, and I mean, I learn every time. So it's not as if it's only you guys that are learning.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I think what I like about the mastermind, it's not informal, but it's not formal. You know, it's a relaxed environment, and everybody feels comfortable. It's a safe space where we can talk and we can really unpack. And you know, everybody has the intention to say, how can I contribute? How can I help? You know, or even just by inquiring, they already answer some of your questions by the way they ask questions. So for me, that is, you know, you got to go there to sort of just get your mind sorted out a bit, because sometimes you get so stuck in a rut and you go down the wrong direction. And then you take some time off and you speak to the group, and then you start realizing, okay, but there's other options as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's also an offer to people who are here who are already using Businessmap, where you're already using Kanban, and we do specifically do these masterminds with Businessmap users. We talk about everything. It's not only Businessmap, but it's built on the Businessmap system. So if you are a Businessmap user, by all means contact us, and we can see how we can involve you in a group like that as well if you're interested. I think enough of a commercial one. That's not what it was about. I think it's always for me to see somebody like you who's been now 8 years on those masterminds and is still coming every 2 years. And as you said, I mean, you were at some stage on your own. In between, you were still consulting to that, but to Aerosud, but you were on your own, and we were still on the mastermind. That was the interesting one.
Correct.
Anyway, we've got exactly past. We are on the minute, and I see there's also a few people who are already leaving, but you can find Johann on LinkedIn. You can find us. I'll also send out a email afterwards with the recording, with the links there, and please feel free to contact me if you want anything. And as I said, contact Johann on LinkedIn, get in contact with him by all means. Other than that, Johann, any last words from you? Famous last words?
No, I mean, try anything. Don't be scared to try new stuff. For me, that is probably learn something new every day. That just keeps me on my toes.
I think you can see. Johann says I only did small stuff. No, Johann, it wasn't only small stuff. This thing is huge, but it was small increments, and you didn't feel it that you did this huge thing. So, but thanks also for all that attended. It was an awesome session. Thank you very much, and thanks for those people who asked questions. That's always very important. And the next session next year, maybe some of you will see in the simulation, or you'll contact us. But other than that, next session next year, probably in January, I'm aiming for that for the next one. Keep an eye open. Yeah, and other than that, have a good night. And Johann, thanks very, very much again.
It's a pleasure.